Ready to go? About to start, we ready? Councillors, can I have your attention, please? I welcome you all to this meeting of the Cardinia Shire Council, and I declare the meeting open. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with the Council's governance rules. It is important that members of the public present in the gallery respect the setting and do not disrupt the meeting, particularly during debate and discussion by councillors on items in the agenda, and in particular, please do not interject at any stage. We will commence the meeting with the following reflection. I would ask those gathered to join us now for a few moments of silence as we reflect on our roles in this chamber. Please use this opportunity for reflection, prayer, or thought to focus on our shared intention to work respectfully together for the well-being of our whole community. Thank you, everyone. Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We have two apologies for tonight's meeting. Councillor Colin Ross and Councillor Carol Ryan are apologies, and we note those in the minutes. Minutes of previous meetings. Can I have a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the previous meetings as listed? This is from the General Council meeting the 15th of April 2024 and Town Planning meeting 6th of May 2024. Can I have a mover? Councillor Graham Moore, and a seconder? Councillor Tammy Radford. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest to declare in relation to tonight's agenda? I see none. We'll note that. Thank you. Moving into town planning reports. Item 6.1.1, Officer Major Activity Centre Urban Design Framework VCAT Order. The officer recommendation is that Council authorise the Manager of Planning and Design to instruct Council's planning, statutory and urban design staff and or Council solicitors on any application for review at the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal relating to the Officer Major Activity Centre Urban Design Framework. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Tammy Radford.
I move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Graham Moore. I'll go to our mover, Councillor Radford, to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. So Council, in collaboration with the Victorian Planning Authority, endorsed the Officers Major Activity Centre Urban Design Framework at a Council meeting on the 19th of February in 2024. On the 26th of March 2024, the Council received from the Victorian Civil Administrative Tribunal, or VCAT as I refer to it, an order for the review of Officers Major Activity Centre Urban Design Framework, and that is as attached. The application is seeking the following: that the Officer Major Activity Centre Urban Design Framework be amended to be consistent with the Officer Precinct Structure Plan and Urban Growth Zone Schedule 4 by expressly recognising the appropriateness of residential mixed-use development in the local business sub-precinct and the range of appropriate uses in the core sub-precinct, or to a declaration pursuant to S124 of the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal Act 1998 that Officer UDF is invalid because it is inconsistent with the PSP. In summary, the applicant's grounds are: the approved Officer Major Activity Centre Urban Design Framework is inconsistent with the Officer Precinct Structure Plan and Urban Growth Zone Schedule 4 in that it fails to recognise and could be interpreted as prohibiting residential development in the local business sub-precinct and the full range of uses recognised as appropriate for the core sub-precinct in the PSP. So Council have looked at this, and Council staff do not consider the present urban design framework prohibits residential development in the local business sub-precinct or conflict with the urban growth zone. Nonetheless, which I'm happy to read, Council staff are open to discussing this matter raised by the applicant to determine if any changes are possible with a view to avoiding the need to proceed to a Victorian Civil Administrative Tribunal hearing. So any proposed change to the officer's major activity centre urban design framework will require to be policy neutral or minor and be agreed to for the purpose of clarity by the council and the Victorian Planning Authority staff. And just to note that no changes are proposed to the Cardinia's planning scheme, urban growth zone or officers precinct structure plan. So I don't think we're here to debate. We're just here to acknowledge that this has been received. And until a report comes back on this further, I think it would lead to more discussion then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. We'll go to the seconder, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much more to add to this. Councillor Radford has just about covered every item on this particular subject. I know this is on a lot of the lips and the thoughts of the local residents here of Officer to see something put in place, and this is another step in the right direction. I'm looking forward to the report to come back to council to see further information down the track. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. We'll open the item up. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this? I see Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I support Councillor Radford in this motion, and just to note, you know, it's such an important thing that we get this right with the Officer Major Activity Centre, the urban design framework for the Major Activity Centre, because at times we have to have plan design for this to make sure that we ensure the right mix of businesses are going to suit the community needs, and all the residential buildings that are happening here, which is so much residential out there. We can't just fill it full of residential everywhere because it will not work for everyone. So I think it is really important to make sure we get this right, and I'm happy to see this proceed as noted. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak to this item? I see Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. As a councillor who is privileged to represent parts of both Pakenham and Officer, I am very grateful for the leadership shown by Councillor Radford in progressing the Officer Town Centre and the urban framework. I am in support, and whilst you know, and look, whilst the community needs more infrastructure and services on the ground right now, this is a good step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Radford to sum up.
Thank you, and thank you, councillors, for your words to this item. As Councillor Springfield said, it is important to get the major activity centre right. So I'm very happy for this to go ahead. And what we're asking for, in conclusion, is that based on this report, it is recommended that council authorise the manager of planning and design to instruct council's planning strategy and urban design staff and all council solicitors on any application for review at the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal relating to the Officer's Major Activity Centre Urban Design Framework. And that's what I'm asking you to support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now put this item to a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Moving into general reports. Item 6.2.1, update of delegations to staff. The officer recommendation seeks council to the officer recommendation seeks council delegated to the members of council staff the duties referred to in the attached instrument of delegation, noting the limitations specified in that instrument, and that the duties and functions set out in the instrument must be performed in accordance with any guidelines or policies of council that it may adopt. Do I have a mover for that item? Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I apologise for the late notice, but I would actually like to move to defer. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for the deferral? Councillor Owen. Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Owen. It is a very significant decision what we delegate to staff and what we don't, and unfortunately I need more time to review this before I can put my vote to it for your consideration. Thank you.
We'll go to your seconder, Councillor Owen.
I seconded for the purposes of debate. Thank you. No further. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item, that being the deferral of the updated delegations to staff? Councillor Jeff Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to foreshadow that if the motion, the alternative motion to defer is lost, that I will move the motion of the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Are there any other councillors wishing to speak to this as it currently stands? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Davies to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I request your support in deferral of this item for 1 month until the next ordinary council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. So we'll now put the deferral of item 6.2.1 to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that lost. In light of Councillor Springfield foreshadowing a motion, the item 6.2.1 officer recommendation, we will now put to a vote provided that it gets a second. So can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Moore. We'll go to the mover, Councillor Jeff Springfield first.
Thank you, Mayor. And look, these items of delegation, they can be, there's a lot of information in there. It's complicated along the Local Government Act, and there's up to some updates and regulations have changed. And so, look, I do seek to support this as the officer's recommendation. Council last executed an instrument of delegation to staff members back in 2022, November. And since that date, there have been some minor amendments made to the various acts and regulations detailed in that instrument. In addition, several changes to the structure of the organisation and position titles have occurred. And as a result, the instrument of delegation to staff requires updating to reflect these legislative amendments and the staff changes that have occurred since November 2022. So I seek councillors' support in this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. While I recognise that there's a lot of information in here to digest and to get through, I understand that, but this needs to be done very well straight away because of the legislative amendments that have to be implemented into our system. Being back from November 2022, that is a long time to be without a revision, and that's basically what this is. So, Mayor, I second Councillor Springfield and wish this to go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? Councillor Owen.
Thanks, Mayor. Just as the report says, most council decisions are not made at council meetings. Effective functioning of council would not be possible if they were, and we would have meetings that would go for tens of hours, I would say. So delegations are appropriate. The Local Government Act 2020 makes provision for council to delegate powers to the Chief Executive Officer and for the Chief Executive Officer to then sub-delegate to council staff. There are other acts and regulations that empower a council to delegate certain powers that do not contain express powers of sub-delegation by the Chief Executive Officer. Therefore, it is necessary for delegations to come from council to the staff members directly. These acts are, for instance, the Domestic Animals Act of 1994, the Food Act, of course, the Local Government Act, Planning Environment Act, Residential Tenancies Act and Road Management Act. So it is appropriate for us to adopt these delegations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brett. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak? Councillor Stephanie Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. The complexities of council services and the need of delegations is well understood, and I will not be voting in support of this item due to outstanding questions. It is the council's responsibility to ensure that all decisions are made informed, and for that reason, whilst noting the essential requirement to delegate, it's also ultimately the council that makes the decisions, and you need to be confident that before you put your name to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Springfield to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to note my councillors' views, different views out there in the chamber, and it's good we have different opinions. I just look, I just hope that all councillors have spent time to read through this and feel comfortable with it as I do, and I seek that approval to move forward with this motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We'll now put the officer's recommendation to item 6.2.1 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Moving on to item 6.2.2, road discontinuance and street name change, Lecky Road, Officer South. The council, having given public notice of a proposal to discontinue part of Lecky Road, Officer South, publishes a notice in the Victorian Government Gazette to discontinue the section of road and notifies DECA that the land is reverted to the Crown, and also notifies Geographic Names Victoria of the name change for the section of road to Nancy Road. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Springfield.
I move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Moore. Councillor Springfield to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't have too much really to add into this. It's just, look, there's a section of road that's being discontinued, and eventually there'll be two sections that are being discontinued, and so we have to split it up because we got to, now there's more than just one section of road. Previously, and it has been a long time, Lecky Road is continuation through that area, but my understanding is that with this break in it, there will be a section that we're suggesting we call Nancy Road here. That's for that section that's beyond the break, but Lecky Road will still remain for the previous section that currently is Lecky Road, and there is not an opportunity to change it to Lecky 1, 2, or 3, so to speak, and it wouldn't make sense otherwise. So I support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We'll go to Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I also haven't got a lot to say about this other than Lecky Road Officer South has been in our backyard for many, many years, and I know that there's some people in our community that want to leave the road of Lecky Road stayed as Lecky Road. But as it is, we have to follow a procedure. Council is proceeding with the proposal to discontinue a section of Lecky Road South, Officer South, to deliver on an adopted Cardinia Road Employment Precinct Structure Plan. This section of the road is a government road, and therefore will discontinued. It will revert to the Crown and the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action. Will be then responsible created with Melbourne Water. So Melbourne Water will take over the responsibility of the road as the Committee of Management, and it will be maintained as a drainage path. And you have to see the plan. The plans are in the report to see where those waterways are. The drainage path has got to be. So therefore, it'll revert to a name that's been selected by the government naming Victoria, called Nancy Road. So it's that's my opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Radford.
I just wanted to highlight that there was consultation with our community regarding this. So officers gave public notice on Wednesday, the 28th of February, of the proposal to discontinue the road in accordance with S207A Schedule 10 Clause 3 and S223 of the Local Government Act 1989. And public notice was given in the Pakenham Gazette. It was on the council's website, and a letter to all abutting owners allowing for submissions to be provided for a period of 28 days. And there were no submissions received in relation to that proposal. So I'm very happy to read this. I will note that, yes, we have received an email since this has gone public from a resident. So as much as within the report, I do publicly note that I personally received an email from Audrey Dobson, and I'd just like to acknowledge that she was against the renaming. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Are there any other councillors? Councillor Owen to speak.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to reiterate there'll be still a section of road called Lecky Road. That's important. The history will still remain. The Lecky family is well renowned in our history of particularly Officer South. I went to Pakenham Secondary College, and one of the house names is Lecky, and that was my colour, my team house, which is green, I think, by memory, but Lecky House. So we just need to reiterate the Lecky name will still be there. Will still be a road, a significant section of road. I do acknowledge the email that councillors received over the weekend. Definitely, there's a lot of conversations happening around naming, and we'll talk more about that later on. But whether it's street names, whether it's reserve names, there's all different ways to celebrate our history. So there's a lot of passion at the moment, but we can recognise other significant names in our community, our history, through other means, with reserve names or street names. So I just want to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Springfield to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Look, as a result of the road discontinuance, Lecky Road will be inaccessible along its full length. Therefore, in accordance with Geographic Names Victoria provisions, the isolated sections of Lecky Road require renaming, and each with a unique name. Because as we've learnt through our process of talking about Pakenham East, we can't call things by east, west, south or north or those type of things. So hence why we've sort of got to this position here. But as Councillor Owen pointed out, the majority of the remaining road is still Lecky Road. It's just these new two sections that won't be connected will have to come up with a new name. And I think Nancy Road is a nice name for a road. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We'll now put this item to a vote. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Item 6.2.3, Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy Update, Curbside Reform and Future of Waste Update. The officer recommendation is that Council note the progress of implementation of the Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy and that the Advanced Waste Processing Project is in the tender evaluation phase. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Owen.
I'll move the following. Note the progress on implementation of the Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy and note the Advanced Waste Processing Project is in the tender evaluation phase with a council decision plan by the end of 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jeff Springfield. Councillor Owen to speak first, please.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Springfield. The Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy 2017 to 26 was adopted by Council on the 11th of December 2017. So we're well into that strategy and provides a 10-year roadmap for the future direction of Council's waste and resource recovery services, waste-related education and advocacy activities. The associated action plans are designed to turn the strategic direction into achievable actions, identifying cross-department collaboration opportunities, timelines and resources required to achieve each action. The strategy is adaptive to the new and changing Victorian government directions of recent years. And, this council knows that it is a moving feast. Councillors get briefed on this subject at least monthly. So that just highlights the importance on this issue for local government. We all know, the key themes of local government. Obviously, garbage, waste is one of them. Rubbish, and this strategy really talks about that. I just wanted. I know other councillors will speak on what the strategy is all about and actions, but I wanted to talk about the green waste drop-off services. We have seen, and I'm really pleased about this. We've got councillors who were briefed on this earlier today about how much our community has embraced green waste drop-off and collections. And over 5 years, we've almost increased it by 5 times the amount that we did back in 2000, before the turn of the decade. But I'm really pleased that our community has embraced it. It's an alternative to burning off. Obviously, with recent storm events, and I know there's still debris from the storm still on some of our roadsides, Council is committed to really cleaning that up. Obviously, we're working in priority order. It was a massive event in February, and part of the green waste collections is part of that response. And I'm hoping that will hopefully be all cleared up in the coming weeks, coming month. So this is a great report. It really talks about how we're progressing with the actions. I'll let the other councillors speak to some of the other items. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rowan. We'll go to your second, Councillor Jeff Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Owen. So through this strategy, Council is continuing to work with other councils, the state government and industry to facilitate new infrastructure solutions and services to contribute to a more stable and resilient sector. And this is just a sentence out of this report that I think kind of really highlights what we're looking at here, rather than going in all different parts that are noted in the report, but how important it is for our resource recovery, right? For our waste disposal resource recovery for every council in Victoria, across this country and the world, really. But working closely with our neighbouring councils, with the state government, to come up with new and efficient solutions for the future, because it is going to be so important for us to do this well. There is many things that we're not up to yet, let's say like the glass collection, which has been noted as a state government initiative to come. And I know for many residents, this seems like more complication. We're doing resources here and there. But once we did that, the amount of benefit for our recovery and the efficiency, if we start separating our glass like many European nations do, is going to be great for the future. And part of these type of program, we're going to develop the initiatives required in order to do this efficiently in the future, in order to move beyond, let's just put it out in the bay, or let's just dig a hole and dump it. We need to evolve into new solutions for our resource management of our waste recovery. So I welcome this report. It's just a report for noting for the actions that have happened to date. And I do commend the work of our officers in this field that are pushing this forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to Councillor Radford.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Owen, for drawing this item. I just wanted to highlight the litter and illegally dumped rubbish. That really is one of my pet peeves, is lazy people dumping rubbish on the side of the road, because as a ratepayer, we're all paying for that to be cleaned up. So what I wanted to sort of highlight that was in 2022, Council introduced a dedicated full-time litter prevention officer. And since that role has been authorised, Council has actioned 3,011 dumped rubbish-related customer requests, removed 539 tonnes of dumped rubbish from the environment, and issued more than $38,000 in infringements to people doing the wrong thing. So what that's telling me is either we're all really lazy, or there's still more education that needs to be required in this area. And so what I am happy is that Council has been able to proactively educate the community on the correct behaviours and target and take action against unacceptable behaviours. And that's as a result of having this litter prevention, full-time litter prevention officer. So if you see it, report it, take the opportunity as well to educate. You can book hard rubbish via the website. So easy to do. You get 2 per year. Please consider doing that rather than dumping, because we're all paying for it in some way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tammy Radford. Are there any other councillors? Councillor Kay Cameron to speak.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Household waste and recycling services will be regulated via mandatory service standards and accompanying regulations established under the Circular Economy Waste Reduction and Recycling Act 2021. The first service standards are yet to be finalised by the state government and will detail how councils and alpine resorts must provide waste and recycling services to households. It will also support councils and alpine resorts to provide a high quality, consistent service across the state. The service standards will also include acceptable items lists for all 4 waste streams, ensuring consistency for all Victorian households. With this in mind, it will allow Council to commence planning for its next recycling processing contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this? I see Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to point out I'm never happy about the illegal rubbish that's on the side of our roads and the misconception of some of the roads that have illegal rubbish, and we seem to see more and more of it every day. On Vic roads in particular, like the community believe that every road, every drain, every possible situation belongs to council, but some of these things are a state government responsibility. And along these major roads of the old highway in particular, if you drive along that these days, you will see it littered with all the way down the road from one side to the other, and it does annoy me like you wouldn't believe. And to get the state government to perform, sometimes I wish that road was ours, and we could do something about it because we'd be more efficient in that area. So I agree with Councillor Radford on that particular point. The illegal rubbish is something very important. Well, we get a bit of feedback from the community on the red lidded bin program. Of what a waste of money is the term. Why are we doing this is the other term. It costs approximately $750,000 to complete that. It's a state government initiative, and we are given these rules and laws we've got to administrate them as part of our problem, but for 304,000 of which was provided by the state government from the curbside reform funding across the years 23 and 24 financial years. Communication engagement for this project also was $37,000, which was funded by the Sustainability Victoria Household Education Fund of 2024. There'll be more funding provided for the Curbside Reform Fund in the future financial years to support these future projects. And so it's not just straight clean across the ratepayers. We get funding to do these initiatives, and through this this program here that we're discussing tonight about this, that's what it's about. But thank you, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Owen to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all councillors for your contribution, highlighting the implementation of this strategy and actions. Thank you for highlighting the dump rubbish. That's a pet hate of mine as well. I like personally giving fines out for that when I can in my other role, but thank you, Councillor Moore, for talking about the red lid bin implementation. It was a state government sort of requirement, and we did get funding for that. But it's trying to make it a consistent approach across Victoria. So if you go from one council to the next, it's consistent. Also, I just wanted to highlight the advanced waste processing that's detailed in this report. This complex project has been worked on for over a number of years. The procurement project involving 9 councils is supported by the Victorian Government project team and special purpose vehicle that contains shareholders from each council. The project is now in the tender evaluation phase. It is expected that council will consider the tender recommendations by the end of 2024. Any successful contractor will be expected to utilise tried and tested and reliable technologies and be experienced with delivery and management of these types of facilities. The Advanced Waste Processing Project has a specific web page available for updates, and updates will continue to be communicated to the community as key milestones are achieved as we work towards the alternatives to landfill. So I encourage residents to regularly check obviously that web page via council's website. Just in summing up, considerable work and progress has occurred within the waste and resource recovery area at Cardinia Shire Council. We have lots to be proud of. This report seeks to inform council and the community on some highlights of the implementation of this action plan. I just want to acknowledge our staff. As I said before, we get briefed on waste almost every month, and there's a lot of work happening in this space. So I just acknowledge all those staff involved. Thank you. I move so. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Just before we put this up for a vote. Obviously, it is a hot topic in the community. You mentioned dump rubbish along the Princess Highway at the moment and obviously other major arterial roads. Can we ask our community to please contact Vic Roads for that? We log requests as councillors and as an organisation like any resident would to Vic Roads, but I can't help but feel that the more requests that we have that come through from the community, the more likely we are to get timely action. So thank you for that. All right, we'll put item 6.2.3 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 6.2.4, Audit and Risk Committee Biannual Report. The officer recommendation is that council notes that report. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Kay Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor. This report summarises the activities carried out by the committee in compliance with its purpose as set out in the Act. The committee's role is to monitor, review and advise council on the standard of its financial control, risk management and corporate governance. Specifically, the committee must monitor the compliance of council policies and procedures with the overarching governance principles and this Act and regulation and any ministerial directions. It must monitor council financial and performing reporting and monitor and provide advice on risk management, fraud prevention, systems and controls.
Sorry, Councillor Cameron, we need a seconder before we can present it. So are you moving the officer's recommendation?
I'm moving the officer's recommendation.
Can I have a seconder for that item? Councillor Moore, we'll go. Thank you, Councillor Moore. We'll go to Councillor Cameron.
I'll just keep going from where I left off. So, and it also oversees internal and external audit functions. The committee acknowledges the ongoing willing and unfettered commitment of council's executives and the officers to the effective functioning of the Audit and Risk Committee. This commitment, together with high quality secretarial support, ensures the committee is able to fulfil its purpose and to provide assurance to council that the requirements of the Local Government Act are being met and applied. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. We'll go to your seconder, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cameron, for withdrawing this item. The internal audit function is a key element in assessing the integrity of the council's framework of internal controls. Very important. The following internal audits will be performed during the reporting period in accordance with the annual audit program. That's the review of council's expenses, project management, complaints management. They are the key roles involved in this audit thing. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Graham Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Cameron to sum up, please.
Thank you. In conclusion, it's respectfully requested that council note the May 2024 Audit and Risk Committee biannual report as prepared by the chairperson, Vincent Philpott. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. We'll now put this item up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Item 6.2.5, Youth Hub Construction Review. The officer recommendation is that council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to proceed with demolition of the Youth Hub building when required, including undertaking the procurement process within existing CEO delegations and signing relevant contract documentation, and authorises the CEO to seek legal advice and undertake legal action against any relevant parties provided the costs do not exceed $150,000. Do I have a mover for item 6.2.5? Councillor Kay Cameron.
Thank you. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jeff Springfield. Councillor Cameron to speak first, please.
Thank you. Council has committed funding to its Capital Works program to construct and deliver a new youth hub facility in Pakenham. Construction on this project commenced in March 2023 and was put on hold during September 2023 as the builder went into liquidation. A review of the work was completed and undertaken with the intention of documenting the progress to allow for a tender to be issued to market to complete construction of the youth hub. As part of the review, specialist advice was sought from structural engineers. These structural engineers' reports have identified structural integrity issues relating to the design of the new youth hub. Given the progress of the work on site, remediation works to rectify the design issues will require extensive demolition, including sections of the ground floor slab and the majority of the first floor slab. Additional construction would be required to increase the building's foundations and replace concrete wall panels associated with the lateral stability of the structure. The remediation work would present risk to the remaining structure. To progress rectification works, the building design would require redocumentation to address the structural engineering design. This will also necessitate architectural and services changes to accommodate the design change in slab and wall specifications. The costs associated with remediation would likely outweigh the cost of demolition and reconstruction to the status of the building. Advice received is that given the risks associated with the extensive demolition and works required, it is very unlikely that a new builder would be willing to take over the project and complete the existing construction.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. We'll go to your seconder, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, there is details information in this report, but look, if I gave a summary, it is a sad story to talk about this. It was such a fantastic project that we've developed during this council term, that we've put out there. You know, the designs looked fabulous, the building looked fabulous. The youth that would benefit from this were very excited about it. So it is really disappointing that the builder went insolvent and put this hiccup in, and then when we've gone to do these assessments and these further assessments, we've found these faults and these issues that, you know, we have a really strong due diligence in this council to make sure everything is safe and built, you know, to the standards, the required standards above and beyond. And unfortunately, what has been built to date hasn't met those standards. And so we are here tonight with this motion that's in front of us. Look, and I think the sooner we can proceed through this and give delegation to the CEO to proceed as needed, we can hopefully get to the end conclusion, you know, recover what costs we can and move forward with delivering another great project like this along these lines. But we need to take these steps first. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to Councillor Radford to speak next.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's important to note that there has been consultation and communication with all the stakeholders, so that's currently being implemented. And the good thing about that is that the consultation process has highlighted that all stakeholders had been kept informed of the complexities during the delays, the commitment to be involved in planning next steps, and understanding that Council is disappointed with this outcome. And the next steps moving forward, further consultation with tenants to understand challenges, opportunities and demolition timelines, scoping options based on tenant advice and considerations, noting to date all services have a willingness and sentiment of commitment to services within the Shire. And I find that really positive as well, considering this is such a step back. All of our stakeholders are still really happy to be here and understand that we need that service in our Shire. So I completely support authorising the CEO to commence the legal proceedings to reclaim costs. This is a really important facility that we require in our Shire. And so just giving this authorisation to the CEO will get that ball rolling and hopefully get it back on track again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. This is really disappointing. This our youth team, a very hard-working group within our council, and it's unfortunate that we can't use this building. We're going to go back to square one again where we were before. The Victorian government committed $3 million to this through the Growing Suburbs Fund. I don't know whether we'll ever see that again, the Growing Suburb Funds. So it's going to be a long road home to bring this back to square one again, even with the demolition of this, which just to see this happen really disappoints me. Because as Councillor Radford said about the, we still have the stakeholders. The stakeholders haven't gone anywhere, and I congratulate them for being there, and they're the backbone to our youth. And so it's really great to see them have them on board again. But to see this happen, it's like the builders a victim probably of the COVID situation where a lot of builders have gone down in a liquidation, and unfortunately it's one of those ones that we've been caught up in that process. So hopefully in the years to come we can see this up and running and move forward again, and we'll get a new youth centre in the future, I'm sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, this is quite a significant, quite a significant issue, and I'm very glad that we can discuss this publicly. I'd really like to acknowledge that whilst the town centre is significant to all councillors, it does fall into the territory of the Henty ward under Councillor Carol Ryan, who can't be here tonight. I haven't heard her position on the matter, but I would invite all members of the community to engage with the ward councillor or any councillors if they do have any questions, because providing transparent governance and community integrity in government is a huge priority to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Cameron to sum up, please.
Council has received the findings from the financial structural examination with the partially constructed youth hub in Pakenham. This investigation was expected to pave the way for a new tender process to select a replacement building. However, the investigations revealed several serious structural issues, rendering the building unsafe. As a result of the investigation, it has been determined that the structural defects are beyond feasible repair, necessitating the demolition of the building. The report attached outlines the project's historic timeline and respectfully requests the delegation to the CEO to initiate legal action to proceed with the demolition as required.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. We'll now put item 6.2.5 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Item 6.3.1, Councillor Expenses Policy Amendment. The officer recommendation is that Council adopt the amended Councillor Expenses Policy 2024. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Brett Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the amended Councillor Expenses Policy 2024.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tammy Radford. Councillor Owen to speak first, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Radford. An internal audit was undertaken into the Councillor Expenses Policy late last year. The internal audit report was accepted by the Audit and Risk Committee at its meeting held in November 2023. The amended policy was subsequently considered by the committee at its meeting held on the 15th of March, and the amended policy was approved in principle for consideration by Council. In addition, an amendment is proposed in regard to the councillor being able to access additional professional development activities in their first year of office if required. So the recommendations arising from the report is summarised in the report. That's clearly summarised. One I want to note is mandate that councillors report the outcomes of their activities upon completion of the seminar or conference. This should include a summary of the knowledge gained and how it aligns with the council's goals. Can I ask a question on that, please, Mayor? Can I just ask the question, when a councillor does report, what form will that be? Will that be, will it be a report at a council meeting, or would it be able, how will it be accessed to the public, for the public's information?
I'm going to refer that question to our Manager of Governance, Peter Harris.
So the intent is that the report back to council will be public, so it will form a part of the council meeting, and most likely the obvious spot to put that will be in the delegates report that councillors bring.
So through that councillor report. Thanks, Councillor Owen. Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for that. I think this is a really good change. You know, it's one way where councillors can learn from other councillors when they do attend those sort of forums. Some of the other recommendations include amendments to the professional development allowance, also the travel allowance rate. I fully support the proposed changes. It's in line with the local government inspector report in 2021, aligning the cents per kilometre. It's really important that council does have this policy. Expenses, councillors being able to claim expenses is important, because you shouldn't have to be rich to be a councillor or to put your hand up. Your cost should be reimbursed. So every person's got the opportunity to put their hand up to be elected. We are very public with it's on our council's website. It's very transparent. This policy helps guide councillors in that. But people think councillors shouldn't claim expenses. Well, that prohibits a huge amount of people from putting their hand up to be a councillor. And there's a reason why you have this policy, to allow anyone to get elected and to be reimbursed for the costs of that. So I welcome further discussion on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. We'll go to your second, to Councillor Radford.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Owen. With the same sentiment, I just wanted to highlight the professional development allowance. Again, we are people, we come from all different walks of life. We come onto council with all different skills, and then coming onto council and understanding something, for example, council finances and the budget is a big thing if that's something you've never even looked at a spreadsheet similar to before. So having professional development to enhance your skills or learn new skills, I think is really, really important, and is also encourages people to put up their hand, because they might have their hand down thinking, I'm not going to know what to do. Well, the professional development is here to help you understand what to do. So one of the changes with that, we have always had that, but we had it allocated at $3,000 per year. We have now amended that for consideration tonight, that we have $12,000 per term that you could use more than your $3,000 allocation for the first year, because within this report, it states our first year of this term, $14,276 was spent in that first year. Last year, $7,730. So we are all seeking to be educated at the start of our term. So there's no point carrying it over to then having $12,000 at the end of our term. Our constituents deserve for us to be skilled at the beginning, not at the end. So I am very supportive of that amendment to this councillor expenses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? Councillor Graham-Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to highlight one other item, if I may, about the travel allowance rate. It's sometimes has been controversial over many, many years here, and historically the rate includes the council expenses policy for travel reimbursement, and it's been set at a rate set in the council's enterprise bargaining agreement, so the councillors are paid the same rate as their private vehicles as the council staff are, which seems fair to me. The Local Government Inspectorate released a report in 2021 and amongst other recommendations recommended that all councils should adopt the position that private vehicles used claims are reimbursed at the Australian Taxation Office rate, currently at 0.72 cents per kilometre travelled, as at the 1st of July 2020. This rate has now increased to 0.085 per kilometre at last year, July 23. It's recommended the council adopt this suggestion and apply the Australian Tax Office rate to travel reimbursement claims, which is currently 85 cents per kilometre, I think, which is pretty fair. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Owen to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all councillors for your contribution. Just obviously, when you look at the renewed policy, it covers all areas such as the mayoral vehicle, conferences and seminars, care and dependent related expenses, and that's really important to support those councillors that are in that situation. For councillors to undertake their roles, they are reimbursed for that. Really important. It's really important for equity and equality to have those expenses. So I encourage residents, councillors are often criticised all the time. It's fair enough, but the policy is there, transparent. I encourage people to have a look at it, the council's website regarding council expenses. It is very transparent, but I think we do it quite well here in Cardinia, but that's my opinion. So in summary, following the internal audit of the councillor expenses policy and confirmation of the revised policy by the Audit and Risk Committee, it is appropriate for the council to consider the recommended amendments to the policy. I move so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arm. We'll now put item 6.3.1 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Moving on to item 6.4.1. Contract RFT 000028, design and construction of Coralline Pavilion. The officer recommendation is the council award Modular Spaces Proprietary Limited design and construction of Coralline Football Pavilion, including provisional sums of $1,930,628 excluding GST, and approves the contingency items as detailed in the confidential attachment for the delivery of this contract. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Moore. Councillor Cameron to speak first.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the council award Modular Spaces Proprietary Limited Contract RFT 000028, design and construction of the Coralline Football Pavilion for tender price, including provisional sums of $1,930,628 excluding GST, and approve the use of the contingency items as detailed in the confidential attachment for the delivery of this contract.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. We'll go to Councillor Moore as a seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the background to this goes back a long way for the Football Club of Coralline, and they've agreed to have a this modular system, which is going to be probably more common in our pavilions more than not these days. With the modular system is really a great idea to deliver that to about speed, getting it on site very quickly, and of course the costs are crucial. The planning and development of the new Coralline change rooms saw as a rigorous consultation with the club and our staff, who did a fantastic job to get this to where it is now. Design and construction agreed by all stakeholders, and it was way back in 2022. It seems not so long ago, but 22 was a while ago. The new building proposed size 400 square metres facility, including home and away change rooms, umpire change rooms, first aid rooms, strapping room, meeting and storage rooms, male and female, and unisex accessible public toilets and a gym. This project also includes the construction of a standalone timekeeper's box and equipment shed. The new building was constructed utilising that modular system, which we're going to look at very common these days. So it's a really great thing to see for this club. It's going to be great to see it finished and on site. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Cameron to sum up, please.
Thank you. Consultation and engagement with various stakeholders, including the user groups, funding departments and council officers, has occurred throughout the initiation and planning phase of this project, which actually dates back to 2018. The requirements for the design were discussed through various meetings carried out with the user groups in line with council standards. The overall budget allocation for the project is $4.1 million. The tender price falls within the council's budget allocation for this project, and it is recommended that council award Modular Spaces Proprietary Limited contract RFT 000028, the design and construction of the Coralline Football Pavilion for tender price, including the provisional sums of $1,930,628, excluding GST, and approve the contingency items as detailed in the confidential attachment for the delivery of this contract. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now put this item for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Item 6.4.2, RFT 000013, provision of plant, tools, equipment and traffic management hire services 2024 to 2027. Can I have a mover for the officer recommendations? Councillor Jeff Springfield.
I move the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tammy Radford. Councillor Jeff Springfield to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. The current provision of plant, tools, equipment and traffic management hire services expired on the 31st of March. And this contract before us today allows for the supply of a full range of plant, as well as various tools or small items for equipment and traffic management services that are typically used by council in the day-to-day maintenance and minor construction activities associated with the infrastructure, including roads, drainage, open space and bridge maintenance. And therefore, the tenders have been sought for the renewal of these services provided by this original contract. So you'll see there's a whole number of providers there that have, I think it was 27 initial tenders that we got for all these different services. So we've got a list here of the ones we think are the most advantageous to council, and this contract will provide not with the specific of how much, when it is, where it's going to go, but provide that they've, with their prices given, that we'll take those tenders on and then they'll be administered when it's needed over the next few years, because all these things come up at different times for needing equipment that's outside of our plant base that we have at the depot, so to speak. And so, yeah, it's a bit rudimentary, this notion, but everything seems to be quite appropriate in there. So I ask councillors to support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Radford.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Springfield. So just to add that this contract is for an initial period of 3 years, 2024 to 27, plus an extension for a further 2 years. And that's what we're considering tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Springfield to summarise.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, just quickly, the report provides consideration for the appointment of a panel of contractors for the supply of plant, tools, equipment and traffic management hire services. And having these, we do in a number of areas have this preferred panel of contractors that we've put the EOI out there for everyone that's interested, and they give us their best prices and we sign them up. And it's for these smaller projects, for these smaller elements, it just gives us a direct through from our operations team to say, all right, Bob over here's got the best price on the Bobcats and Billy over there's got the best price for the Billy Cats or whatever, you know what I mean? So just there's no Billy Cats, oh maybe, but anyway, but just in summary, this is what we're looking at in front of us. And yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We'll now put item 6.4.2 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Item 6.4.3, additional mowing sites and garden beds. The officer recommendation is that council, in line with the attached document to the report, amends contract 230015 with Skyline Landscape Services Proprietary Limited to include sites excluded from the initial tender process in Zone 1 North, and amends contract 23-0015 with UDLM Proprietary Limited to include sites excluded from the initial tender process in Zone 2 South and Zone 4 Central, and amends contract 23-0015 with Antler Environmental to include sites excluded from the initial tender process in Zone 3 Eastern Central and Zone 4 Western Central. A lengthy officer recommendation. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Radford.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Owen. Councillor Radford first, please.
Sorry. Thank you. So, yeah, following our decision earlier this year to engage with 3 contractors, some discrepancies in the assets listed for maintenance in all zones in the system and the executed contract were identified by the contractors on the first day of service. So, in order to ensure of the delivery of service, negotiations with existing contractors commenced immediately, with the view to vary the list of assets serviced for the remainder of the 23-24 financial year, and until officers were in a position to brief council on the challenges and to recommend an appropriate course of action for the remainder of the contract. So meetings with the contractors all took place on week of the 11th of March, and I was really pleased to read that all contractors were willing to work with the organisation in resolving the problems and provided discounted rates for the additional sites to the contract. So I just would like to highlight our council officers working so well with our contractors. I think we can all agree that these new contractors are doing an amazing job maintaining our open spaces within the Shire. So I'm really pleased that this didn't cause any interruption to that service or cause any upset with our contractors. And so I'd like to thank our council officers for the great work in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. We'll go to Councillor Brett Owen as a seconder.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Radford, for really explaining that really well, those amendments. In line with estimates, the proposed budget for 24-25 has been adjusted so that the total cost of the contract is $7,480,000. Cardinia's existing contracts allow for the possibility of extending agreements for 2 additional periods of up to 3 years each. It is anticipated that there will be consistent and significant rise in costs for mowing and horticultural services in the coming years. We note that it is responsible for the council to explore alternate solutions for providing these services. But I just also want to acknowledge what Councillor Radford did say. We have seen some really good improvement of our open spaces, the maintenance. Our community has asked for it, expects it, and I'm really pleased that we're seeing some positive results. Look forward to spring and see how that the challenges that spring does, but it's expectation of councillors and council that these new contractors will do a good job in that space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to see this as a permanent fixture if we can. I have the alternatives to have these contractors on hand when the need is there and when the need isn't, because we do get caught out sometimes with our parks and our mowing contracts when, in all respects to the staff, they do a fantastic job and we know how hard they work at this, but sometimes the grass grows fast, sometimes it's wet, sometimes it's windy, sometimes these things happen, and we need to have these things in place instead of being behind the 8 ball, because that's what happens when we have one contractor and they can't maybe keep up with the demand at the time. So we need to have these alternatives, and this is the form of action that we take to look after our community's assets. And I know how the frustration of we get as councillors. When we look around some of the parks and the grasses, what they say, they bail it just about, and our community gets very, very upset. So it's we like to be one foot front, not sitting behind the 8 ball. So it's a great initiative to have this resolved here tonight, and I hope it goes through by the councillors. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Tammy Radford to sum up, please.
Thank you, and thank you, councillors, for your words. I was trying to think of something, so I'm going to say maybe some of our neighbouring councils now see that our grass is greener on our side than it is on theirs due to these awesome contractors that we have had. So I think we all want to see that standard kept. And as I said, I thank our council officers and contractors for working so well together to just sort out this issue. So tonight I am asking that we support the officer's recommendation, and that is to amend those contracts as listed in the report. report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. We'll now put item 6.4.3 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Moving on to item 6.4.4, Quarterly Financial Report 2023 to 24, Quarter 3, March 2024. The officer recommendation is that Council receives and notes the Quarterly Financial Report for the 9 months to the 31st of March 2024 and notes the capital project variations as outlined in the report and approves the budget variation for the Ulmer Treloar Amphitheatre. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Jeff Springfield.
I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Graham Moore is the seconder. Councillor Springfield to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. As this is an important thing, we get our quarterly reports come through, and the financial report is very important to keep us on track and make sure we're measuring against, you know, our requirements and our set out in the budget, which we're leading up to a new budget process as we do. It just clicks over year after year, gets quicker. But look, it's just, yeah, this is a quarter 3 financial report for this council. And yeah, I have nothing further to add at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We'll go to your seconder, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I must be getting the stitch because I haven't got anything further to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Jeff Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, there's many details within this. If any of the residents would like to look through the reports up online, and as they can, and again, it's always important to be transparent and have all this information on hand for our residents to know where the money's going and to look at the variations when they come forward, as they do at times. So thank you, Mayor. Nothing further to add.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. We'll now put this item to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Moving into the activity report section of the agenda, we'll go to item 6.5.1, the Environmental Council Plan Initiatives Quarterly Report. The officer's recommendation is that Council notes the Environmental Council Plan Initiatives Quarterly Report. Can I have a mover? Councillor Brett Owen to move.
Thank you, Mayor. I do move the officer's recommendation that Council notes the Environmental Council Plan Initiatives Quarterly Report for the 3 months to March 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Is there a seconder? I see Councillor Springfield. Councillor Owen to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Springfield. This quarterly report provides an update on projects, services and actions that are undertaken by Council to deliver on the Council Plan Focus Area number 3, Thriving Environments and its associated initiatives. I do really like this quarterly report. We've got some really good staff in this these areas, and it's great to really talk about what's happening. Some of the areas I want to talk about tonight is the roadside weed control problem, and we know this is a big challenge. You know, we've got thousands of roadsides, whether it's made or unmade, that's in council responsibility. So roadside weeds is a big challenge. So just an update, works are currently being completed for Council's annual roadside weed control program. Priority works have included the control of declared noxious weeds such as blackberry, ragwort, gorse and broom species on the selected roadsides. This year was undertaken using a mechanical treatment of areas of substantial flax leaf broom infestations around the Merino area. The use of forestry mulching large infestations has reduced the need for manual handling, disposal costs and herbicide use. In addition, natural reserve rangers continue to access and respond to customer requests regarding roadside weed issues on vegetated roadsides. So, as the report says, there's a process of how this is identified. Obviously, customer requests is a huge part and plays a huge part in Council's program. So I do encourage residents, if you do see infestations on Council roads, to do report it, because part of the customer request is a main driver of responses. Also, energy resilient projects, the installation of backup power systems at the Gembrook Community Centre, Cockatoo Community Complex, and Worrell Reserve Pavilion in Emerald are all project sites for the Energy Resilience Project. Obviously, this is funded through the Victorian Government as part of the Energy Resilience Systems Program. So in an update, the resilience systems are nearing completion, with commissioning and testing progressing at Worrell Reserve Pavilion in Emerald and Gembrook Community Centre. The backup generator installation is being organised at the Cockatoo Community Complex. I know these systems are being looking forward to by our community. Council, I think late last year, had a petition from the Upper Beaconsfield community, and council resolved to advocate for further sites across Cardinia for energy resilient projects, and Upper Beak being one of them. So I'm really pleased for those northern townships. They have these projects almost complete. That will make a significant difference in times of storms and when power's out. So I do look forward to those coming online, and council will advocate for other sites, including Upper Beak, which is really important. Finally, and I'll allow other councillors to talk, the heritage. This year's council's heritage grant program funded 4 heritage projects across the Shire. The projects included refitting the workroom at the Coorierup Museum to store their growing collection of photographs, replacement of the front fence at St James Church in Narnagoon, maintenance of the overgrown historic hedge at the Bunyip Primary School, and the replacement of corrugated iron roof on the front veranda of a 1880s private residence. So applications for the 24-25 program is out now, so I encourage those eligible residents to consider applying for that heritage grant. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Owen. We'll now go to your seconder, Councillor Jeff Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Owen, for highlighting those fabulous projects for the energy resilience. They are really welcomed and well needed as we saw a result from those February storms, and I'm sure there'll be more to come in the future, but they were going to be a great asset. So really welcome the state government funding for that, for the support for that. Just like to make a quick mention of the Pebby's Land Willow Removal Project. And works have now been completed to remove willows from the area surrounding the dams at Pebby's Land. And the willows have been, the willows look like nice trees at times. They can be spaces, but they are very invasive along our wetlands, and they are, they are invasive species which do strangle, the ability for our native vegetation to thrive in there. So it does look great, the work they've done down there in Pebby's Land, and it is a great little pocket. I'm lucky for it to be within in my local town, so great place to walk the dog around, and that's a little segue for my dog to the next thing I was going to highlight, which is this BioLink indicator species monitoring, and this is a project under our BioLinks plan. Which is, so Action 18, which is undertake monitoring of indicated species in priority natural resource areas. And one of these projects, one of the key indicator species we're looking at is the powerful owl, as well as the yellow-bellied glider. So at 40 different properties noted along the BioLink property locations. But the reason why my dog came into it, because I did have a powerful owl come and land up in the tree a few years back at my place, and I was alerted to it because the dog's he's barking at something, and I go, what? I've gone out, this owl's as big as him, sitting on a branch. It's only about 15 foot in the air, looking down at him, thinking, I reckon I could take him. The dog didn't know what he was dealing with, but it was, but it does warm my heart when I see, amazing native fauna like that still is existing and thriving in our environment, in our local environment, despite the pressures that humans, society puts upon, their existence. So I really welcome the environment team working with the dedicated community members from our land care groups to really see, the preservation of these types of assets into the future. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Owen already touched on this particular subject about the heritage grants, and I just wanted to highlight the the St John's, or the church that's in Narnagoon, of the heritage fence that they replaced. The Mayor and I attended the opening and the actual ceremony of the church in the morning. I don't go to many fence openings, but it was an opening. It was an opening. I wasn't sitting on the fence at this time, but what it was really well done by the Reverend Kathy of the St John's, which is in Narnagoon, and it was a really good day. And thank you, Mayor. You spoke very, very well at that at the opening of the fence. But I just wanted to bring up what's coming up, because these heritage grants are very important to us, our community, and I want to just bring these heritage grants up for the community to enhance and actually apply for these grants. Get a projects that's that is in their areas, and to apply for these grants. There's not a lot of money. It's not a huge amount, but it's an amazing what that small amount does. And they're opening on the 8th of April. On the Monday they were. So that's when the heritage grants were open for the community. We've also got coming up as the kindergarten and primary school waste incursions. That's within with a focus on water and recycling to educate our youth. That's going to be delivered in year 3, term 3 and 4, and we've got a plastic-free July, which is coming up as well, which is in that same environmental council plan initiatives. These are initiatives, and what they call the Good Sort, believe it or not, Good Sort bin inspection program. That's a 12-month review. So these are all the great things that our council staff are doing in that environment area, and they do a fantastic job there. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Owen to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for your contribution. Just further reading on the report, the waste and resource recovery. So council's waste team participated in a series of community events at community activities and festivals during this quarter. This included the Upper Beaconsfield Village Fair. It was great seeing them there. The Packham Show, also the Bunyip Show and Yakaboo. So it's great seeing our staff engaging with our community, educating our community about this very important issue of waste and resource recovery. We had a great event. Unfortunately, I couldn't go, but the Children's Clothing and Top Swap event in Beaconsfield. It was council's first children's clothing and toy swap event on the 7th of April at the Beaconsfield Community Complex. Under the program, parents, guardians of children aged 3 to 8 were given the opportunity to swap good quality clothes and toys with other participants. Council partnered with the Clothing Exchange to provide an environmental friendly way to help parents, guardians of children to swap those clothes. The event was free. 23 families attended, 66 individuals, approximately 560 items were bought into the swap, with 60-40 split between clothes and toys. In addition, the swap activities, such as the presence of the Cardinia's local toy libraries, Pakenham Toy Library and Puffing Billy Toy Library, waste sorting games, reusable bags, colouring, etc. So that was a great event in Beaconsfield. We had Clean Up Australia Day, obviously, in March. That was great. I attended the Beaconsfield event. It was great to see lots of events across the Shire, 41 registered sites. Great outcome. So well done to everyone who was involved in that. So this report, as I said, is a quarterly report, and it's great to update council on the activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. We'll now put item 6.5.1 to a vote. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item 6.5.2. Performance and growth reports, quarter 3, 2023 to 24. The officer's recommendation is that the performance and growth reports for quarter 3, 23 to 24 be received and noted. Do I have a mover? Councillor Radford.
Thank you. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Springfield. Councillor Radford to speak first.
Thank you. So this is it's quite an extensive report, which I encourage people to read through. We are in our third reporting year for the new council plan. This was the council plan was adopted at a council meeting in the 21st of June 2021. The council plan is structured around 5 strategic objectives that underpin the overarching strategic direction for the next 3 years. Under each strategic objective is a series of strategies, initiatives and indicators, and council have committed to undertake work on 29 council plan initiatives during the 23-24 financial year. Good to read that all initiatives are currently on track to be completed by their due date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. I'll go to Councillor Springfield as your seconder.
Thank you, Mayor, and I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Radford to sum up.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. So in summary, this performance and growth report for Q3 23-24 shows various results in the performance across the organisation and growth across the Shire. As I say, it's quite extensive, so I encourage you to read through that. As an organisation, the Council continues to aim to the targeted improvement initiatives at areas and services that are not currently achieving their desired targets, but it's good to see that everything is on track for this quarter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. We'll now put this item to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Item 6.5.3, Community Engagement Update. The officer's recommendation is that Council notes the community engagement activities being undertaken in May-June 2024. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Brett Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council notes the community engagement activities being undertaken in May-June 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Radford. Councillor Owen to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Radford. This report provides a monthly update on Council's community engagement opportunities commencing or continuing. Community engagement is a process whereby Council uses a variety of methods to proactively seek out information and feedback from the community, including their values, concerns, ideas and aspirations. Where possible and when required by legislation, Council will include the community in the development and delivery of identified initiatives and projects. This practice establishes on an ongoing partnership, ensuring that the community members continue to shape Council's decision-making and implementation process. And some of the, there's 2 main areas for this report. The naming of the Officer District Park in Lansell Avenue Officer. And I know Councillor Davies is very passionate about this district park, and it's great to see it coming to life. And how good are those 2 slides coming down that hill? Massive. Like the feedback, it's that I'm getting, from even outside our Shire is great. So I do look forward to that opening, but we do have a obviously engagement opportunity for our community. The project involves the community voting on a new name for the Officer District Park. Officer District Park was always a working name for our budgets and planning, but we want a name for this great park that it will be. So online creating Cardinia survey. It's available from the 13th of May, which started, and the 16th of June. So there are QR code posters around the site and obviously Council's website. So we do encourage people to provide their feedback. It is going to be an amazing reserve, particularly for our young people. Also, the proposed parking restrictions at Shire Circuit, Pakenham, providing consultation results back to businesses regarding the support for proposed parking restrictions, presenting back recommendation and additional consultation questions. So that's occurring from early May to June. So we've got the development of the new Pakenham East Railway Station. So this area in question is south of that station, and it abuts the industrial employment area of Pakenham. And I do know there's already concerns from those businesses that users of of the railway station may park in this industrial area. We all know that there's going to be dedicated car parking on the north side of the railway line, on the north side of the station. So that's the dedicated car parking. So we're consulting with those businesses to, obviously protect them and their customers from, I suppose, that inappropriate car parking. So I look forward to that feedback coming in and council resolving on those matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Breton. We'll go to your seconder, Councillor Radford.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Owen. Yeah, I do encourage residents to check out the Creating Cardinia website. There'll often be what's open for community consultation, and that's where you can have your say. And so we encourage you to get on there, have your say. We do read them, we do listen, and I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? I see none. I'll go back to Councillor Breton to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Radford. So the table in the report outlines projects for engagement that can be promoted to the community this month to support its awareness and involvement and will assist council in the delivery of the council plan action. I move so.
We'll now put this item up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Item 6.5.4, Major Projects Report. Now, I note that there is an administrative error in the officer recommendation referring to this report for the month of February. It is indeed the report for the month of April. This will be amended in the meeting minutes, so please disregard that. The officer's recommendation is that council notes the Major Projects Report for the month of April 2024. Do I have a mover? Do I have a mover for that report? Councillor Tammy Radford.
I move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Graham Moore. Councillor Radford to speak first, please.
Thank you. Yes, so this is a monthly report that's included within our council agenda item. So I do encourage residents to read through it and just give you an update on what's happening and what's going on. There might be something there that you weren't aware of what was going on. Obviously, the big ticket items in Officer are Bayview Road and Tivendale Road, those intersections. So at Bayview Road, the major civil works are complete. Application for electricity connection has been lodged and we're waiting for confirmation of date of that being done, and landscaping contract is being prepared. I also note actually near that Bayview intersection, the trees taken out of Main Street in Pakenham have been transplanted to there. And I keep going by and checking, and they've been flowering and doing really well. So I just wanted to add that, not that it's in the major project report, but it was a really successful transplant from Main Street to Bayview Road. So well done on council for that. Tivendale Road, officer, the intersection is now operating with works continuing to finalise additional lane and bus lane. Critical works in Tivendale Road is being programmed in a manner to ensure access to abutting businesses. And I do thank our businesses in that area. I know it has been completely, utterly frustrating, and I thank council for working with those businesses to ensure that there's signs that are being put up to ensure that people understand and know that those businesses are still operating and would love to see you. So please support local businesses in the area as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. We'll go to your seconder, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a progress report once a month that we get to look through, and the community get to look through to see where their projects are and where they're aligned and where they're travelling to. I note the trees, I think they're crepe myrtles. I think they might be on Bayview Road, which is really great to see them being relocated and being healthy, wealthy and wise. But there's a lot of road projects in here in the major projects. I'm not going to go through every road. I know the Sealing of the Hills program there's still a few roads in there that are being finished in there. I mean, the major project itself, as as stalled, but there are still road packages that are being finished in the Cockatoo area, which is really good to see. The ones that have been started are going to be finished at least in that program. But no, there's some great projects that we're achieving here, the major projects report, Mayor. So I just asked the community who are interested in these reports to read through them and find out where they're updated to. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? Councillor Brett Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a good report. I do note there's some community questions that we may get to if the questioner is in the audience, otherwise in the gallery. Otherwise, we'll be writing to that resident in response. But there's questions about this major projects report, and I acknowledge the comments of the resident. Definitely, I think all councillors would agree that this report needs more information in the future, and I'm really pleased that council will address those concerns raised by councillors and the community. So I look forward to this report being redeveloped and more information that gives residents a bit more information in a timely manner about these projects. But I just want to mention Huxtable Road. Obviously, the report does talk about Huxtable Road, but I just wanted to provide some information. Huxtable Road is in the final stage of design and environmental investigations. Unfortunately, prior to completing the civil design, the consultant engaged advised council they could no longer finalise the works due to selling the business. The new consultant has now been engaged to progress the design. A finalised design is now expected by spring 2024. A vegetation removal planning permit application will then be submitted. Once an approved permit has been received, the works can be tendered. The anticipated timeframes on receiving the permit is 3 to 6 months. So Huxtable Road is progressing. I am pleased in the draft budget that we adopted last month. Huxtable Road is funded, and I'm really pleased about that. A lot of these road projects, it's fair to say, there has been delays, obviously designing, but also the financial situation that all governments are in. And I'm pleased that the draft budget continues to fund Huxtable Road. We know there's been a strong community campaign for that ceiling. Also, the same with Bessie Creek Road. I would briefly like to update council that due to the significant roadside flora and fauna identified in the Bessie Creek Road Reserve and to avoid expensive and potential unachievable earthworks, the design has been developed to avoid any roadside impacts. The constructed road will therefore utilise existing road footprint. The design is currently being finalised and the tender issues drawings being prepared. Delivery of this project is dependent on funding being available, but I'm pleased in the draft budget that obviously is before our community that funds are available in a couple of years for Bessie Creek Road. All being well with permits, etc., but there is some challenges. But I'm pleased that both Bessie Creek Road and Huxtable Road is in our draft budget papers funded. Really good. Just briefly, I just want to mention Stony Creek Package. Obviously, this road is a special charge scheme involving Morris Road, Burton Road and Young Street, Upper Beaconsfield. So all the VCAT matters are complete and works are due to commence later this year. And finally, I just want to give a thanks to our bridge team in Cardinia Shire. There's some significant renewal works happening in Beaconsfield around the Beaconsfield wetlands. The Berwick Views estate is approaching 25 years old, as in the start of those wetlands. So the bulwarks are tired. I just want to thank the staff. The staff, our team is doing those works, not a contractor, our staff, and we're getting quite a number of compliments from our community. So still progressing, but it's looking great. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Owen. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Radford to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Moore and Councillor Owen. Yes, I don't disagree with Councillor Owen. It would be great to see maybe some more detail put into this report. And I think it's good to get that feedback because we can always learn and improve. So thank you to those residents who've given that feedback. But it is quite a detailed report as well. It includes the drains and bridges upgrades. It includes capital work projects. There's the early learning centre projects. There's currently Thulis Road Integrated Child and Family Centre, which is being built. We received some funding from the Victorian Government's Building Blocks Capacity Grant, which was exciting news, and it has some developer contribution as well. So that's exciting for our community to read about that. We have our open space projects like the Officer District Park, and also within this is our developer delivered infrastructure. So it's good to keep up with that, like the Cardinia Road Employment Precinct and the upgrades there. So have a read through it. It just gives you an idea of what's going on. If you want to ask more questions, reach out, ask us questions and we'll get you some more details. So yeah, that's not a problem either. So I'm just asking to move the officer's recommendation, which is to note the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. We'll now put this item up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. That concludes discussion of the agenda items. We'll now go into councillors' reports. Councillors, can I ask that you keep your report to under 3 minutes, otherwise ask for an extension of time, please. Councillors, are there any matters to report? Councillor Radford.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight Anzac Day has happened since our last General Council meeting. So I attended the Anzac Day dawn service at the Officer Memorial Gates, which is always just a beautiful service. It's community-led. It's not RSL-led. It's community-led by the Officer District Community Association, which is really good. And normally Rob Porter was our MC for that event, but Councillor Owen stepped up this year and was MC, which was lovely, and you did such a great job, and I know Rob would have been very happy with that. The Officer Junior Footy Club puts on a big breakfast for everybody after, which we all appreciate. The Officer CWA does tea and Anzac bickies, and Bellevue Orchards always supplies the juices. So I really want to thank the community, because that's what this is. They don't apply for grants or anything. This is all done and organised by the community, but it would be great to see more people, officers growing. So more people, as you're moving into the area, reach out to these organisations and see how you can help so that we can continue this dawn service, because it's growing in numbers every single year. So I would hate to see that it's not continued just because there weren't enough people volunteering. I'm a delegate to the Cardinia Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee. Our last meeting was the 17th of April. And I just want to acknowledge a couple of our members here tonight. Anne and Michael, thank you so much for coming in. Unfortunately, at our last meeting, we did have to discuss the budget and the fact that the access upgrade program was not a line item in that budget. And so I really want to highlight that Michael has sent in a question tonight, and all those members, I know it was a tough discussion, but we all discussed how we could get council to see how important this program is to people living with disability in our Shire. And so I just wanted to say thank you to the committee members. Since its inception in 2018, there have been 31 jobs at a total amount of just $1,057,574 on existing facilities that just needed upgrading so everybody could access it. And that was all through the advisory committee letting us know what facilities within our Shire just didn't work. And so I really want to acknowledge you tonight and say thank you so much for the great work. I know you've been long-term members on that committee, and I thank you sincerely for your time and effort on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Are there any other councillors wishing to make a report? I see Councillor Owen first.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll hopefully be within 3 minutes. I attended the Casey Cardinia Heritage Festival. That was great on the 21st of April. Well done to the Casey Cardinia Heritage groups and that presented there. We were well represented from Cardinia. groups. That was great. Anzac, we had an Anzac service in Beaconsfield on the 21st of the 5th, the Sunday before Anzac Day. That was great in the renewed Bonnet Reserve. Well done to council working with the community in the renewal of that. That's almost finished. Some signage needs to go in there and some seating, but that was great to see that. The Mayor joined us. Thank you, Tammy, or Councillor Radford, for talking about officer. That was great. Also, Upper Beaconsfield, I attended the Upper Beaconsfield morning service. We acknowledged the service of outgoing President Eric Chaplin. He was the RSL president for over 20 years for Upper Beaconsfield. I loved enjoying hearing his address where he likes to travel of areas of significance for the Anzac spirit and war history. So it was always great. So thank you, Eric, for your service. I attended with the Beaconsfield Progress Association at the City of Casey. The Beaconsfield Avenue of Honour nameplates have been in their custody for decades. So Casey were, after long advocacy with, the CEO was involved, we've got possession via the Berwick-Pakenham Historical Society. They've got those nameplates now. They're in the possession in the safe. And there's going to be a project in displaying those, and grants will be sought to display that permanently. Aging Well Expo was great. I'm sure Graham will talk about that. And we went to, councillors went to the opening of the Officer Community Rooms. It was great that evening, a couple of Fridays ago. We acknowledged Rob Porter and Gareth Sheen's real massive contribution into those rooms. So that was great. And finally, I went to, with the Mayor, the Narre Warren District Family History 35 years celebration. And it's Casey Cardinia. It's got Narre Warren in its name, but it's Casey Cardinia. So well done. Happy birthday to that group. 35 years. Great. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Did it easy. Had 30 seconds to spare. Councillor.
I'll see if I can outdo that 3 minutes. No, I won't. Yes, the dawn services in Bunyip Ward were fantastic. We had the dawn service at Darnagoon, the service at Tynong where I spoke, Garfield, and at Bunyip, which was just a great event. And I've got to highlight someone that was at the dawn service, and this young man's very, very humble. But we've got Casey Thompson here amongst us in our audience, who was who did the last post, and it was fantastic actually, because it's really what makes a difference to our ceremonies is having a bugler or a trumpeter, whichever you want, on the day, doing it live, and it was really chilling. So I think he has secured his position in the Narnagoon Dawn Service event. He doesn't know that yet, but I'm just nominating him for I think he'll be there forever if he'll do it for me. But it was great. But the other thing that the Mayor and I went to, which is the Cannibal Creek Landcare planting day in Garfield, a place called Lovers Lane. Now, I'm not making this name up. There is a place called Lovers Lane in Garfield. And we planted thousands of plants there, Mr. Mayor, and it was great to have Pam Cunningham and her team there in droves. There was a lot of people there. I'm probably thinking about at least 200 or 300 planting in that group area, which is a Melbourne Water reserve. So it was a really great day to be there, and the Rotary Club did the lunch, I noticed. And as you mentioned, Councillor Owen, about the Aging Well Expo, yes, it was a great day. I had a good time anyway. We had 250 or more senior groups of our communities there having a good time. The presenters were fantastic. And I must say the committee from council, led by Kelly Burdak, did a fantastic job there at organising that for the day. It's a nerve-wracking event to have that at the Cultural Centre and have that many people there to entertain. But it was nice to see Councillor Ross, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Owen, and the Mayor and the CEO, and of course Lily Rosick was there as well, which is really good to see. So it was a good group, great day. It was had boil. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors wishing to present a report? I see none, so we'll move on. Thank you, councillors. We have no petitions to be tabled unless I'm otherwise informed. No? Okay, we'll move on to notices of motion. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Davies, you have lodged a notice of motion 1093. Can you move your motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to propose a slight revision on the wording of this motion. So instead of what is listed on the council website, the motion I'm moving as follows, and I have asked for this to be displayed on the screen for transparency. The motion I move is that council notes there has been correspondence from residents requesting that another name of Hannah Meadows be considered for the new suburb name of Pakenham East, and that this will be included as a submission in the final report that comes back to council.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Do I have a seconder to present that notice of motion? Councillor Moore, Councillor Davies to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Moore. I will acknowledge that Councillor Moore is the ward councillor for this area and himself lives very close, if not within the boundaries. Should this motion be supported, Mayor, I will also request that a photo may be displayed. Whilst Council has been briefed on the urgency of a timely process to name Cardinia's new suburb, councillors have all heard significant community dissatisfaction with the process. A list of potential names of female names has been proposed to our community, and this list was the first time Council formally consulted publicly. This process is not great practice. It's something significant as a suburb name is worthy of comprehensive community engagement, but we were constrained and it was a decision we made. It was accepted by Council and it is necessary to expedite this process and decide on a name for this suburb. Unfortunately, there has been a breach of community trust in the failings of the process. Council officers, in the development of a list of potential suburb names to share with the community, Council officers directly approached our historical societies, the Nanagoon Progress Association, the Bunurong Land Council Aboriginal Corporation, Lendlease and Parkley, the suburbs developers, and also Council, and compiled a list of potential suburb names. And it didn't capture everything. When we don't engage comprehensively with the community, we can miss things, as we did. Subsequently, Council resolved to include an additional name in that list for presentation to the community. It was another extremely worthy female name. As the current consultation closes tomorrow, there is not time to include another name in the current consultation list. But what we can do is the following. Council can note the current community engagement for the renaming of the new Pakenham East suburb finishes tomorrow, the 21st of May. Council can note that there has been correspondence from residents requesting that another name of Hannah or Hannah Meadows or similar be considered for the new suburb name. And despite current community engagement for the new suburb name having almost concluded, Council can still consider the addition of Hannah or Hannah Meadows or equivalent as a potential name when the final report comes back to Council for adoption and resolution. Irrespective of not being put to the community vote, another name can be considered. I'd like now to speak to the name of Hannah and its significance to our community. One local family has owned a property within the Pakenham East precinct for 90 years, and as such, this family has an extremely strong connection to the land and to our community. 5 generations of this family have owned or resided on a property on Mount Ararat North Road in Nanagoon. 90 years later, the family are very proud to say they've kept this property within their family. In the gallery tonight, several of Cardinia's amazing women are here. 2 of the women are part of that family. And I'd like to briefly acknowledge Chantal and Liz, the daughter and grandmother of Hannah Elizabeth Duff Stewart. Hannah was a pioneering woman who made significant contributions to the land within the Pakenham East precinct. The family's property was initially owned by Francis Alexander Duff, who purchased the property in around 1993, and he called it Myala. As a side note, the Duff family donated the land on which Cardinia's Presbyterian Church was built, and there's a plaque in the church in Mr. Duff's honour. Mr. Duff later sold the property to his future son-in-law, Walter Stewart, and their mother and grandmother Hannah Elizabeth Duff Stewart following their marriage in 1946. Hannah Elizabeth Duff was born on 19 January 1922. She was one of the few women farmers of her time. She herself grew up on a farm. She'd been milking cows since the age of 12. Their farm was predominantly run as a dairy farm, and this was also Hannah's domain. She single-handedly ran the dairy operations and was successful in gaining a contract for their farm to provide milk to Bonlac and Longwarry. Hannah milked cows by hand until she was able to upgrade to a mechanical dairy. For almost 60 years, Hannah milked cows each and every day. Hannah retired from milking at age 70, at which time she then opted to run beef cattle on the property. Over the years, Hannah and Stuart diversified farming operations on the property in order to make ends meet. They grew maize to feed the cows, peas they supplied to the Garfield fruit shop. They leased a paddock on the property to grow potatoes. They sold mushrooms from a makeshift roadside stall on the Princes Highway. They raised and supplied chickens to a wedding reception venue in Beaconsfield, the White House. They supplied eggs and chickens to residents in the St James Village retirement home on Dame Paddy Avenue in Pakenham. They also farmed merino sheep and would sell the wool at Melbourne Wool Sales, all whilst Hannah was also working as a domestic cleaner. Hannah also started a mobile food van, and she sold hot food, sandwiches and hot and cold drinks at the Warrigal Market, local agricultural shows, the Lang Lang Rodeo and the Orovale Lake, on top of her farming work. As well as a pioneer in industry, Hannah...
Sorry, Councillor Davis.
Yep.
30 seconds over your 5-minute allotted time. Are there any councillors who would like to move a motion to allow Councillor Davies some extra time? Councillor Owen, thank you. We'll allow 1 more minute. Thanks, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillor Owen. As well as a pioneer in the industry, Hannah was a loyal and devoted wife to Stuart for 63 years and was a treasured mother, grandmother and great-grandmother. Hannah has sadly passed away, aged 87 on 8 April 2009. She rests in the Pakenham Cemetery. So often the contributions of women are absent in our history books or online archives as we now use. And I'm really proud that in moving this motion tonight, Cardinia Shire Council can acknowledge one of these women. Hannah's dedication, resilience and commitment to her land are emblematic of the spirit of Cardinia, our community we're so proud to represent. Her descendants are supportive of the use of her name in an honourable way. And in the event Hannah was not utilised as a suburb name, the family's property runs parallel to Mount Ararat Road, and as the mother, grandmother, great-grandmother and person of great service to industry, maternal child health centres, education and training facilities and community buildings also comes to mind. So councillors, I am seeking your support in the motion as listed above. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. We'll go to the seconder, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Davies has said most on this particular item. I'm just referring back to the notice of motion, which this will be included in the submissions. There are a few submissions to come back to the final report when it comes back to council. When it comes back to council, we will assess and review those submissions on that at that time. Because it's got a while to go yet because of these still have to go through the processes of the geographical names Victoria. So there's nothing what we call final as yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this? I see Councillor Owen.
Yeah, thank you. I support this this motion. I just obviously there's a lot of passion on this issue. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of ideas, and yes, we'll decide on one name for that suburb. But there's other things to be named, as I said earlier: streets, reserves. We'll gather all this information. We'll come through this process, and this will be used in future decisions. So, and I think that's a really good outcome of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Well said. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Davies to sum up, and just note there's 2 minutes for start. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I appreciate your comments and I acknowledge the passion and complexities of this process. With your permission, Mayor, should the motion be supported, I would like to also display a photo of Hannah for presentation to our council and audience tonight. And I have forwarded this through to council officers for display, and I have a printed copy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. We'll now put notice of motion 1093 up for a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. And thank you, Councillor Davies. Please show that photo now. Thank you, Councillor Davies. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to the next notice of motion. Councillor Davies, you've lodged notice of motion 1094. Can you move that motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm seeking to move the following for formal council endorsement. That council commences an expression of interest process to seek a community group or organisation to lead the Pakenham Carols in 2024 and 2025. 2. Pending the completion of a signed funding agreement, council allocates a maximum of $40,000 to the successful organisation to facilitate the running of the Pakenham Christmas Carols event scheduled for December 2024. And as an optional extension, pending successful completion of the 2024 event, allocates a further maximum of $40,000 for the organisation and management of the 2025 Pakenham Christmas Carols events, with disbursement scheduled for March or April 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Is there a seconder for that notice of motion? I see Councillor Tammy Radford. We'll go to the mover, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Radford. When we started our council term, we and all of our community was navigating the start of a new normal after the COVID-19 pandemic. We were all hurting, and that pandemic is behind us. And we've had storm events and other challenges to support our community. The hard stuff in life keeps coming, and that's the good things that sustain us. One of my proudest, happiest reflections was the 2022 Pakenham Carols and the huge efforts by the council officers to run this. This event brought joy, connection, fueled resilience, and was extremely well received. We don't often get the good news stories, but we got one here. Council officers briefed us, told us how difficult and expensive it was, how much council officer time was needed to run these carols, and that their recommendation was that the council ceases running this event. The council has many other services we need to deliver, and we need to be smart. And I said, no way, our community needs the carols. Council officers also planned the 2023 event and nearly ran it. Unfortunately, the weather meant it needed to be cancelled, and this was unfortunate. However, the efforts made to attempt the event were still far-reaching. Many years ago, the community itself ran a similar major carols event, and I've worked through how can we support handing this back to the community, find that happy medium of keeping the government out but making sure it still happens. The council officers have shared their planning and their learnings, how community engagement was undertaken with all interested community groups and all schools invited to participate, that new community groups, those that hadn't previously been involved, were actually welcomed into the event planning. Feedback was sought from all stakeholders to develop the scope of the 2023 event, and the event was well promoted, social media, posters, notice boards. All the required services were sourced and procured, and unfortunately, the weather leading up to the event resulted in some of the contractors being unable to safely set up the equipment. The bad weather continued on the day and led to the cancellation of the event. It was managed well. All stakeholders were called from 8 a.m. Communication went out ASAP, and efforts were made to prevent people arriving to venue. And the staff have suggested I could, when speaking to this, pass on my thanks to everyone, on their thanks to everyone involved, whether that was supporting the planning, developing the songbook, or practicing songs. Each and every group involved was amazing. And as a councillor, it reflected so beautifully on our council, the organisation and the community that worked together and tried. Sometimes the journey is still worth it, and we cannot control the weather. I have shared in briefings my appreciation of the council officers, my appreciations of their efforts, irrespective of the weather and cancellation. Our community appreciated the event, and I do too. I'm very, very proud of the staff involved, the way they've respected and supported our community. It is truly a credit to Lily Rosick, Michael Casey and their team. Thank you, Lily and Michael. And a major Cardinia carols is a necessity. And in the past, these carols have been run independent of council with community control. Is it the right decision that this event remains 100% council run and controlled? The general wisdom says no, but I would like to secure the carols for the community. And how do we do this? I propose that council returns the event to the community and allocates funding for the costs for a 2-year period. This will secure the event and support the community to run with it after. This solution means that the expression of interest and financial support will encourage a local community group to take ownership of the event and provide them with sufficient support to deliver a quality event that is reflective of the large audiences seen at this event previously. This financial support has been determined based on the estimated cost for essential items from previous years. The successful community group may also seek sponsorship and use other avenues to generate revenue to support the event both this year and into the future. Council officers will support the successful community group through the planning of the event, so they become familiar with the requirements and the process. And there's a lot of requirements. This option seeks to secure the event for the future, ensuring local families and children can attend a community-led carols event locally. Councillors, I would like to hear your feedback, and I hope you will join me in support making a formal direction to our organisation to secure this event for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'll go to your seconder, Councillor Radford.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Davies, for this notice of motion. All councillors agree that there should be carols in the central area of Cardinia Shire, and Pakenham is at risk of not continuing with carols, and that's not what we'd like to see. So in essence, I agree with this, that an expression of interest process then puts it out to all organisations to apply to run it. Given the lateness of the year, and I know doesn't feel that late, but it is late to get a carols organised. Council does need to support with up to $40,000 to help get those. You might need a stage, you might need other vendors that need to come along. There's lots of things that actually need to be included. So we need to be able to support that to get it started. But this kind of event does need to be community-led, not council-led. It's better, it's more organic, it's more family friendly, it's better when it's community led. We all take ownership of it, not just one organisation, but the schools and the churches and everyone that is involved. So it is really important, I think, to put out an expression of interest. I encourage all organisations who feel like that this is something that they would like to consider. I'd like to see that you've applied. We will have a look at that and see how council can support for the next 2 years to get it up and running, and then it'll be a successful event. People want to see it, and in the future you'll get funding from fundraising and sponsorships and things like that. So yeah, I do support this. I acknowledge all the other carols events within the Shire, and I thank all those local organisations for putting those together. But it is important to see that Pakenham does continue as well and supports that central part of Cardinia Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Are there any other councillors who'd like to speak to this item? I see Councillor Graham Moore.
Yes, Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the former committees that used to run the carols by candlelight in Pakenham of years gone by. Well before the council had any input into the carols, particularly the Cardinia Concert Band were one of the major leaders and the drivers of the carols, and the churches, they all together, as Councillor Radford was mentioning before, but they were the crux of the carols by candlelight, and the Rotary Club of Pakenham also was a major player of those times. So it would be fantastic to see, with funding maybe around and available, to see those groups reignite, come back to the fore, and I congratulate Councillor Davies for having this notice of motion up to flag there's funding there available, because otherwise, how would you know? Where would you find this out? So it's the notice of motion I support here, because I think to get this out to the community and say, well, here you are, community, what can you get in place? Because what made it more difficult for those committees back in those days, which made it hard, was the OH&S and the community safety issues, and community safety is on everybody's lips these days, and so to secure those safety items to have an event of this size, particularly at night time in a football oval, is quite, if you run an event like that, it's quite a stirring place to be if you're the controller, and that's why I take my hat off to the council staff who have done it previously. So hopefully, I'd love to see the carols by candlelight in Pakenham revive, including with fireworks as well, including all of these things as well as and back to how it was before, because we don't want to lose these things in our community, and the community don't want to see that either. So now's the time for the community to stand up and be counted. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this? I see Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to note also, as Councillor Davies highlighted, the council officers that have worked on this in the past really worked strenuous to try and put it together last year, which was failed. But Lily Rosick and Michael Casey's team just want to note the work they've done on this exact proposal, which they presented to council. It's not any new ideas here. Just to note, it's not council trying to tell the officers who are trying to not do something. The council officers and the Connected Communities team put the idea together for us to consider that we should have an EOI process, to have a community-led event for this, which I completely agree with. I completely agree with, with the funding. It needs something to kick it off, but it needs, if it's going to be sustainable, it needs to be community-led. It can't be run by this council. So I just think it's important that we note the work and the consideration for the officers who often go unconsidered, because us councillors get a lot of the microphone space at times, but it is a consideration I think that is worthwhile, and I think it's important to get it forward as we have for the notice of motion tonight, because we're getting the ball rolling on communication of that this is going to be coming, so people can get their thinking caps on towards a proposal for this, because it's not going to be an easy feat. So they need to put some smart event planning mindset to this, and I welcome the expression of interest that come forward towards it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jeff Springfield. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to this item? There being none, I'll go back to Councillor Davies to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for your words and perspectives. In particular, Councillor Springfield, I appreciate your acknowledgement of our superstar council officers, and Councillor Moore, who said it well. The intent here is to reunite a united community approach to safeguard this for our community. I appreciate Councillor Radford's comments about how all councillors have agreed we need essential carols in the central area of our Shire, and other community carols, smaller, that many of whom also access council's grant funding to help them, will also run. Our Shire is growing rapidly. Was it 4 households per day in that growth report we moved tonight? And an expression of interest process to gain momentum, to get a community-led and not council-led approach moving forward is what I understand the best, most considered way to safeguard this. Schools, churches, Rotarians, groups, businesses, everyone, please get involved. Let's reunite and support our community and safeguard this. For your consideration, Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Just before we put this to a vote, I'm going to support this. Most people will know I was a Pakenham kid and still live there, and now raising my kids, I would like to take them to the Pakenham Carols for a long time to come as well. Councillor Davies, you mentioned last year being rained out. It was really sad because that was supposed to be a transition year where we worked with the community to give it back to them. And I remember being down at the Mighty Toomuc Reserve with Michael Casey and Beck Ellis while it just poured down, and they frantically called everyone to try and cancel it. So I think, Councillor Moore, you said it well. We need the community to step up here and take back ownership of it. But yeah, anyway, thank you, councillors. All right, we'll now put this notice of motion 1094 to a vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. We move into agenda item number 11, community question time. The first question is from Michael Wright, and I have to ask this, is Michael in the gallery? And I see that he is. I'm going to refer the first question to Wayne Mack.
Thanks, Mayor. Mr. Wright's question is, members of the Cardinia Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee, like myself, all donate our time, some for more than 2 decades, solely for the benefit of the local community. Can Council please explain why the committee was not consulted before the Access Upgrade Program funding was completely removed from the 24-25 budget that was endorsed at the previous Council meeting? Thank you. And the response. Thank you for your question and for your ongoing commitment to the Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee. The draft 24-25 budget discusses financial sustainability challenges and prioritisation of capital projects on renewal of existing assets and completion of committed projects that are underway or grant funded. Using these principles, $110,224 is allocated in the draft 24-25 budget for the completion of the Kuirup pool pod. However, funding was not included in future years as new projects were not prioritised. The draft budget was tabled at the 15th of April council meeting, seeking a resolution to commence community consultation for a period of 4 weeks. This is the time when community members, groups and committees can provide feedback into the draft budget prior to council adopting its final budget for the next financial year. Engagement does not typically occur before the formal consultation process. Council has received a number of submissions for the reinstatement of the Access Upgrade Program, and these will be considered by Council on the 17th of June. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Our next question is from Christopher Blazovic. Is Christopher in the gallery? I know Christopher is not in the gallery, so a written response will be provided to you. The third question is from Chantal McLaughlin. Is Chantal in the gallery? And I note that she is. I'm going to ask Debbie Tyson to answer that, please. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Mayor. It's nice to see you again, Chantal. So I'll read your question first. I recently put forward a submission for an alternative name to be considered as part of the renaming of Pakenham East Precinct. Can this name be added to the current community consultation voting options? Alternatively, can a second community consultation period commence for the additional name given it is already so late into the process? Thank you for your question. The name put forward cannot be included in the current engagement process. For a new name to be included, the current community engagement would be required to be ceased and a new community engagement process undertaken if the proposed name was supported by Geographical Names Victoria. However, do note the submission you have provided will be included in full as an attachment to the office report to Council following the community engagement process. Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you, Ms Tyson. The fourth question is from Wayne Andrews. Is Wayne in the gallery? I see that he is not, so a written response will be provided to him. The fifth question is from Tony O'Hara. Is Tony in the gallery? I see that he is. Thank you. We'll ask Debbie Tyson to answer.
Thank you, Tony. Your question, with reference to the clause D, mandate that Council report the outcomes of their activities upon completion of seminars or conferences. The question is, under the recommendations on Councillors' expense claims related to conferences and seminars, could the clause also require councillors to provide a brief report to the public at a council meeting, council website, or on social media on the outcomes of their activities and how it relates and how it can assist councillors? In response, Tony, the intention is to report the outcomes through the council chamber during the reports from delegates section of the ordinary council meetings. Councillors may also discuss conferences and seminars and share any insights on their own personal social media accounts.
Thank you. The sixth question is also from Tony O'Hara, and we note that Tony's in the gallery, and we'll ask Debbie Tyson to answer.
Thank you, Mayor. This is in relation to Lecky Road, Officer South. The question, was any consideration given to retaining the name Lecky Road to the Jin Jin Ben homestead where the name originated from, rather than disassociate it from the original Lecky properties? In response, Tony, using the name Jin Jin Ben was not considered. The names refer to the Kinsella sisters and were included as a group of possible names in the Anzac Centenary Commemorative Naming Project. They also meet the naming criteria for recognition of female names and are keeping with the theme of using Anzac names in the Cardinia Park estate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Tyson. The seventh question is from Corrie Hopkins. Is Corrie in the gallery? No, a written response will be provided to you. The eighth question is from Suresh Para. Is Suresh in the gallery? No, okay. A written response will be provided to you. The ninth question is from Paul McMurray. Is Paul in the gallery? No, okay. And that concludes our community questions. And we're just about wrapped up. We'll just go into the mayoral minute. I just want to say that today marks the start of National Volunteer Week, which is obviously something that all councillors want to highlight. And this year's theme is something for everyone, because we note that in volunteering, there's obviously a lot of opportunity to give back to your community and also a lot of opportunity to find purpose for yourself. So I want to thank Cardinia Shire's volunteers for everything that they do. It's a good opportunity for us to highlight the important role that they play in our community. And we just want to invite more people who are not currently volunteering to give it a go. We are experiencing some rates of volunteering decline in Cardinia Shire, and it's important that we note that, and we do absolutely appreciate and value our volunteers. I also want to update councillors on the MAV State Conference. We presented 3 motions and they were all successful. The motions were relating to calling on the state government to provide financial support to municipalities experiencing very significant population growth, specifically to address the growing funding gap raised between DCPs and ICPs. So that was passed after an amendment from Melbourne City Council, which we welcomed. We also passed motions relating to improve social and affordable housing for growth areas, and a motion relating to financial vulnerability and wellbeing nationally as well. So having 3 successful motions was very nice, and I thank councillors for their approval through the notice of motion, which put those up to the Municipal Association of Victoria State Conference. And finally, it was touched on there, but the budget engagement of submissions. I just wanted to note that the community consultation period for the budget has now closed. Thank you to everyone who took the time to submit their thoughts and take an interest in the stewardship of this council. So often through budgets, we actually don't get as many submissions as you would like, but I'm pleased to say that this year was different and we did get a lot of submissions. They will now be read and considered before the final budget is presented to council. Thank you, councillors, for your attendance tonight, and those in the gallery. I now declare the meeting closed.